Welcome back to the G'day Battlers podcast with myself, Debbie Pebble, and PvP Steve as we delve into this week's PvP stuff. How are we going today, Steve?
Okay, I'll be honest. I'm a little bit disappointed, Debbie, because this is the first, it's the first episode of the podcast that you introed, and you didn't even start with a G'day Battlers. So I'm actually a little upset. So come on, you can fit it in now.
No, it's time. The time is past now. The time's past.
Squeeze it in, get it in there. Whoop, just, whoop, oh, there's an opening. There's
no opening. There is no opening here.
There it is. That's the opening sound.
G'day, Battlers.
There we go. Closed. All sorted. We got there. All is good in the world.
Alright, I'm never introing again. There's been a few things that have been happening since our last podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last couple has been a little bit of a disjointed mess after we had like the 2-part Japan thing out, but then that got broken open by the sort of emergency episode that we jammed in the middle to do with the cancellation of OCIC. So, I mean, like the last episode was recorded probably weeks before that actually came out. So this is sort of the back to normal edition. I don't know what we're titling this thing. I've clearly just got an affinity for the word edition.
Wait, back to normal edition, not Roads to Worlds edition.
Not Japan edition.
Not
Debbie
edition.
intro.
Never again, Debbie intro edition.
She says now, but you just wait till next time edition.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, yeah, there's been some stuff. So 2024 Play Pokemon season has kicked off. We've had 2 so far at the time of recording. So there's been Pittsburgh Regional, and then there was also Barcelona this weekend just gone. So we've crowned our first 2 regional champions of the new season, and I guess gotten our first look at the brand new meta after the sort of big old meta moveset update, which it wasn't the most consequential move update in the world, but it's clearly shifted the needle in some significant way as far as changing the composition of these Play Pokemon teams.
There's definitely some shake-up. Some of the Pokemon that we know pretty well are still up there, but there's some of them have started to creep in. We're definitely seeing a lot more Gligar, a lot more Shadow Alolan Sandslash, and even some spicy picks have come up throughout the 2 Play Pokemon tournaments that we've had.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, I think that Gligar, as we were sort of talking about 2 weeks ago now, it was sort of one of the big winners of the meta change because Aerial Ace is a little bit cheaper, and Dig also got just improved as a move. So it just became a slightly better Pokemon, I guess, and somewhat counterintuitively still in my head, moving away from Night Slash, which just is the quintessential Gligar moveset in my head as a sort of, I guess, Sylph battling dude. But there's been some other Pokemon that have slipped through the cracks. So I guess we can sort of talk about Pittsburgh first, seeing as that is the sort of first one that we had. We had Itzaxon already pre-qualifying for next year's World Championships in Hawaii as the reigning world champion to go and defend his title. So Pittsburgh was sort of the chance to pick up a second person that is also going to be qualifying. And so I think, and again, I think that a lot of eyes were on this one in particular as what are we actually going to see get played and what are we actually going to see succeed. So Debbie, do you just sort of want to talk about like the stuff that we're sort of seeing going on in the Pittsburgh tournament?
Yeah, in Pittsburgh was the first time that we've seen the new meta come to play. A lot of discussion over what 6 to bring, just because obviously with Lantern being nerfed, buffed, whatever you want to call it. Still sitting on that fence, Steve.
So nerfed.
and it was really interesting with, like, I suppose, like, no Noctows now, and
Mm.
now that the I suppose reigning flyer has stepped down, what is going to take that place? And also, what has kind of come back in? And I've noticed in Pittsburgh there was a very heavy amount of, obviously, Medicham. There was a heavy amount of Gligar, but also, I suppose, no surprise, but I was slightly surprised. A lot. It has brought back a lot of Lickitung.
Yeah, Lickitung is sort of one of those Pokemon that when Noctowl started to become really good, Lickitung started to get walled a little bit too often. Just, I mean, the Licks are never doing a whole lot, but they were doing even less up against Noctowl. And then the body slams just really weren't adding up faster than those Sky attacks were. So with Noctowl sort of taking a little bit of a back seat and some more Pokemon that Lickitung actually does okay against coming in, it's ended up being one of the sort of, I guess, two dominant Pokemon of the new meta, I guess. Like I guess the Metacham Lickitung cores that we used to see so many of before December 2022, which is when they first brought in that wing attack buff. So we're sort of approaching a year ago now. That core is sort of returning and in force, which is, I think, a core that is a little less RPS. It's a little less, I get
Mm.
in this matchup and I lose, which is nice. It's a bit more dynamic gameplay, but it can get. I think there were some people that are going a little bit tiresome of those matchups in particular, just because again they are sort of bulk fiends. So we're sort of coming back to some classics, but with that extra little spice thrown in with the Alolan Sandslash, with the Glygars, Registeel sort of coming back in as the premium steel type as well, sort of replacing Galarian Stunfisk with G-Fisk also getting nerfed. And I guess in some sense also being a little less useful up against Noctowl. Well, as in with Noctowl sort of being removed, but I guess it feels in a lot of ways taking steps back towards what the meta looked like a little bit.
I agree with that. It's definitely some of these Pokemon that we are quite familiar with, but we just, it's like a cousin. It's just like, oh yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, and they decide to, like, pop by. You're like, oh hey, and it's like, oh, it's just familiar times all over again. Maybe just me, but anyway, that's how I feel about it.
I think that's probably a fair way to go, I guess. But also welcoming some new folks in. One of the major ones that I think has been getting a lot of attention in Superior. So Superior is a Pokemon that Hot Pocket used to get through into the top 8 of the Pittsburgh tournament. And I think that there was a lot of dialogue back when the meta shifted about grass types having a little bit more play with a little bit less Noctowl. There's sort of room for a grass type to come back in, and I guess a little bit as the lantern counter, because we haven't really had a Trevenant hanging around for quite a while after it got nerfed. So the grass types just sort of came back as a little bit as a force. And so Venusaur has been the big one that most people have been going for. And there's a mix of regular Venusaur and Shadow Venusaur. But Superior's got an interesting sort of, I guess, niche where it also has some flying type charge move action to give you some Metacham coverage at the same time. So it's sort of an interesting one. And it's proven itself as a top 8 Pokemon, I guess. So I think that it's one. And I mean, I guess also having the flying type damage, you're also being able to hit the other Venusaurs, the other grass types that are running around. So it gives you some interesting versatility. So I feel like it's an interesting one. Maybe not like the most meta of meta picks. I don't expect it to be on any top 5 usage graphics, but I think it's going to be hanging around in quite a few top 8s to come.
Look, you're saying not top 5, but I'm calling it now. I reckon he'll get up there. There, I got off the fence. There, how about that?
Well done, Debbie. I mean, I think Hot Pocket ended up coming in like in 3rd place, so like it did very well as far as performance wise. It hit that top 5, but so did Whalmer that one time. But yeah, as far as usage top 5, I'm not so sure. But there are some other picks as well. Like I mean, I guess there's no reason to, like, for some reason, again, I'm still in this like streamer pre-recorded battle sense vibes where you have to hold off the results until later, even though you know them internally. But Wadaj, sort of the man, coming off of the third place at the World Championships, coming off of being hailed as probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Pokemon Go battler of all time. Wadaj came through and took out the tournament against Lyle Jeffs, the third in the grand finals. And Wadaj was running an incredibly unique team compared to everyone else. So I think that there were a lot of comments on the fact that in the grand finals with Wadaj versus Lyle Jeffs 3, there were 11 unique Pokemon across their total 12 Pokemon, which is a little bit nutty and really just comes down to Wadaj having a very irregular team. Where, as opposed to all of the Metacham, he didn't have a Metacham, he didn't have a Lantern, he didn't have a Gligar, he didn't have a Venusaur, he didn't have an Umbreon or an Alolan Sandslash or a Charizard or, or some other Pokemon that were running in the top 8, like our favorite friend of the show, Enhoff's Tapu Fini, also in the top 8, right? And oh, just as a side comment, incredible stuff. Like
Hmm.
I love the fact that Enhoff is able to succeed with Tapu Fini so often, and others just don't have that same success. Anyway, tangent. Wadaj was running a team of the one Pokemon that was, I guess, not unique was Lickitung. He was also running
Mm-hmm.
Registeel, but outside of that, he was running Dugong, he was running Swampert, he was running Shadow Dragonite, and he was running Defense Deoxys, which is definitely a
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon we saw have a bit of success in the World Championships as well. So uh, there was no one else in the top 8 running Defense Deoxys. There was no one else in the top 8 running Shadow Dragonite. There was no one else in the top 8 running Swampert. There was no one else in the top 8 running Dugong. This was a very unique team, and Wadaj really piloted it very well and pushed himself through without dropping a single set in in the first regional of the season. So I think that it sort of shows not only this meta has more room to breathe, we're not being forced into certain cores, but also that it's still early days and we're still very much figuring out what is actually going on in this meta and what can succeed. So I don't know, how'd you feel sort of seeing that, I guess, breadth of meta, Dave?
Yeah, there's a lot of variety, which I quite like. That you're not tunneled into certain picks like you were in the last season. And I do like variety. It just makes things a little bit different. And, I think it also plays to the strengths of those that did do a lot of Sylph tournaments. And they do have that knowledge of being like, oh, they're going to bring out something a little bit different, and they already know what moves and also how much like that Pokemon can handle certain charge attacks and fast attacks. Because an average person that has just been playing in the current meta probably doesn't know, like, or is that familiar with it. So it really is to the credit. And I suppose I always contributed to going like, the things that you do in the past and you build up credits will all come to fruition at the end, and you don't realize it until it happens. And I think this is one of those times where we can see, the prowess that Wadaj has, and his lengthy resume of accolades coming through, because it is a non. We're still trying to figure out the meta here, but I suppose a non expected team, and him to just like roll with it and do so well with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you actually make a really interesting point as far as that Sylph arena, building up that knowledge in the background. So, Wadaj being that sort of reigning and last ever Sylph arena world champion, just winning that title weeks before the world championships in Yokohama. I remember quite vividly last year in the 2022 Sylph arena sort of continentals. Shadow Dragonite was a massive force to be reckoned with and was sort of on most teams because it was so dominant. And so, like, being in these tournaments, being in these sort of extra metas and whatnot really does help to have developed that knowledge in the background. So you can just sort of keep in mind sort of what a Shadow Dragonite can do. And again, as the only person running it in that top 8, he's ended up doing incredibly well. And I guess also taking advantage of some new moves in something like Dugong, who somewhat recently was given Drill Run. so it became a slightly different Pokemon. You have some play back against Alolan Sandslash. You have some play back against Registeels. You're not just going to get Zap Cannon to dust. You've got some level of playback, and Wadaj is sort of really able to navigate that team through to, I guess, no longer having to care about CP for the rest of the season. No championship points
Mm.
concerned. You just get that like literally as early as possible outside of winning worlds, just locking in the world championship invite. So a really nice for Daj, but he's definitely said that he does not intend to slow down. So I expect to see a few more. I expect to see Wadaj's accolades list sort of grow a little bit as the meta sort of continues to develop over the next 3 months.
The list just keeps getting longer for that man.
Yeah, I don't know what they end up like deciding to cut. Like, on the Play Pokemon streams, they sort of have that little bit where they have like a couple of things that they've achieved. I don't know at what point they just sort of start cutting things for time and just being like, we have to pick and choose only certain accolades here. We are going to have to cut, we'll only have the last 3 regionals because the last 15 is just too many. Like, I don't know at what point you just sort of have to cull that list. But I don't think that we're going to have to wait too long to be able to find that out for sure. But of course, everyone else did do incredibly good as well. With the only other pick other than Enhoff's Tapu Fini that is sort of I think worthy of some highlighting is Magic Mason actually bringing in the Shadow Alolan Marowak to the top 8. And I think getting
Mm.
through to the top 6 with that Shadow AWAC. So very interesting in a meta that literally 7 out of the top 8 teams have a Lickitung on, was still able to sort of fight its way through because the only other Pokemon that was on 7 out of 8 top 8 teams was Medicham. And you have a very good Medicham matchup, and the other team, being Wadages, had Defense Deoxys on it. So a good matchup there as well. So maybe playing a little bit more into that slightly RPS scenario where you're just trying to land that Alolan Marowak onto a Pokemon that it's good against and not one that it's really bad against, like an Umbreon, like a Lantern. Um,
Mm.
but definitely a Pokemon that's got some interest and a little bit of play as well. And I'm not going to put any bets on it being in any top 5 usage stats anytime soon.
Even even just having it there, even if you didn't use it and just left it there as bench pressure, that is, it's so like a Shadow Alolan Marowak is difficult. I personally find it very difficult to get around. So it has spammy moves, it has like nuke moves, like it is something that I would be not unfamiliar with, but I'd be a little bit worried. So yeah, that's it's definitely a spicy choice.
Yeah, which, it has definitely worked out for him. But of course, that was sort of, again, this is the first regional of the season, so there is potentially a little bit more room for spice. But, congratulations to everyone who's sort of been able to take down some championship points to rack up to the finish line, I suppose. And I guess the other tournament that has just happened this weekend was the first regional in Europe. The Barcelona, was it a regional or was it a special event technically? I feel like it might have been a special event.
I think it was
Uh,
called special event. So, but we'll just call it for the sake of this podcast a regional.
yeah, I mean, look, you're still getting the same level of qualification in terms of that first place, getting that instant invitation to the World Championships. And I think, I don't want to misquote here, but I think it might have been Dracoviz that used the phrase, the first person from Europe to qualify for the World Championships after Itzax and Enwadaj both being that North American breed. So we sort of have
Mm.
that first European opportunity come through. And again, we sort of see a lot of names that were very familiar to I guess, the previous European circuit. And as far as the sort of top 8 meta, it definitely got a little bit more. I definitely had some European flavor in there. For one thing, being able to pop in a Sableye into the top 8, which is something that Europeans have been using much more than the North Americans for a very significant amount of time now. But in addition to that, we saw, I think it was 2 different. I think it was just barely not 3 different because there was a slight change. But I think there were 2 people in the top 8. Actually, no, I'm completely mistaken. It was only one person. Chris Dixon, Chris Ixon, double Z, was running Wadage's winning team from Pittsburgh, and was
Yeah.
able to push all the way through to the top 8. I think actually through to the top 6 as well. Just running back Wadage's team, which is still like Wadage's team didn't exactly take over the meta. Like, it is still the only Shadow Dragonite in the top 8. It isn't anymore the only Deoxys or Dugong or Swampert, because Padoman was running a mostly similar team to Wadage. But
Mm.
I think there was definitely a little bit more of a push towards some Swampert action after Wadage, and also definitely some Dugong and Defense Deoxys action. I think those 3 Pokemon were sort of Wadala showed how good they were in a meta where, for one, Gligar is really good, so Dugong had a lot of stocks, and then also that Defense Deoxys giving you some slightly different matchups. And it gets a little bit complicated to call it a Metacham Slayer because famously, Wadage's World Championship run had a special set of IVs on his Metacham that was sort of made to not only take down other Metachams, but also to perform better in the Defense Deoxys matchup as well. So, sort of an interesting dynamic to sort of have to see play out in all of these top 8s. And I have a feeling that it is going to be a matchup that remains incredibly relevant going forward. So I think Itzaxon has definitely left his mark on the 2024 meta scene without having even touched it.
He's already influencing. He's not. He's not even entered at all.
The world champion difference is real, but I think there are also a few other sort of, I guess, notable picks in that top 8 for Barcelona. So instead of one superior, what's better than one superior? 2 superiors were able to get into the top 8, one being run by Tomahawk and one being run by Maximilian P. And then also a couple of Frostlasses were in there. Lowland Sandslash felt like it was starting to slip to the wayside. There were only 3 of them that ended up in the top 8. Which I feel like we were seeing a lot on stream, but as far as sort of getting all the way to the end, the other ice types, I guess there's more stock in other ones. Like we're seeing variety is the key line. I guess we're seeing some Dugongs, we're seeing some Alolan Sandslashes, we're seeing some Frostlasses. People are bringing options and building their teams in very different ways, which is sort of I think it's fun to see.
Yeah, definitely like again variety, but yeah, it's just it is nice to, like I personally like to see like Frostlass. I just think that's something that we haven't seen a lot in regionals and in worlds, so it's really interesting to see that being brought back in now. And yeah, like we said before, the superiors and the Venusaurs, the grasses coming through, that we just haven't seen in such a long time. So yeah, a lot of variety as well in Barcelona.
Yeah, and again, sort of interestingly, Z's Wireless or Zvalis, however you're actually supposed to say the name, because I'm pretty sure it's of German origin, right? I
German
feel
for two, yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's got a V sound in the middle there. I'm not
Zwei.
entirely. I feel like it might be, maybe. I think he actually is from Germany as well, so I
We're
think
gonna
it
get
might make
slaughtered
sense.
by the Germans now.
Oh, please be kind in the comments, thanks. But interestingly, sort of following on from the Pittsburgh tournament, also running a somewhat unique team. In, I guess, as I sort of flagged a little bit earlier, the only person to bring Sableye that sort of made it into the top 8 of either 2 regionals. But not only that, also the only person to get into the top 8 in either 2 regionals running Pelipper. So Pelipper is a Pokemon that, I'm talking very, very, I guess, personal here, but on the weekend I was watching the Ghost Stadium League finals for the gym leader tier, and Pelipper is just a Pokemon that C. Leonardo was able to just pilot in a really, I guess, dangerous way, because I think that Pelipper is a little bit similar to Frostlass in the sense that if you get away with a bit of energy, especially energy plus a shield advantage, you're unstoppable. You can just throw these bulk weather balls and
Mm.
hurricanes at anything that comes in, and nothing enjoys being in front of a Pelipper except maybe a Lantern, which, being able to navigate against all of the other Lanterns that were swimming around in not only the entire tournament, but just in the top 8 alone,
Mm.
Definitely a really, really strong performance there. I think potentially given a little bit of room to breathe by the fact that there was a little bit of Wadage copycatting going on and people moving more towards Swampert as that water type instead of the
Mm.
Lantern. Like, I don't think that he actually had to face. Uh, I'm not sure if he actually had to face a Lantern in the top eight, or he actually might have in his battle to get into the top three potentially in the winners bracket. But I think that he may have had a saving grace in reducing the amount of lanterns he had to play. So
Mm.
I hope he sent his thank yous to Adaj for shifting the meta slightly in that direction.
So we're still calling it a buff or a nerf? No.
I don't know. The meta direction seems to have spoken, Debbie. It's sounding terribly like a nerf. I don't know.
Uh,
And look, there was some
okay, fine.
water gun lantern action going on as well. So there's been some running away from the earlier moveset, but yeah, Team Lantern nerfed for life.
uh, yep, shout out to Eddie on that one.
Let's go, Eddie. Oh, by the way, we
Mhm.
Eddie's dial-up churn. We can call him that because we're tight like that. Yeah, me and Debbie, we know top battlers, but it's no big deal to us. Lol.
Please no one take that seriously. Do we talk now about the different fast move of the Alolan Sandslash?
Yeah. So that's a little bit of I guess Australian flavour that has sort of made it into the mix. So I did see on Twitter sort of a note that someone believed that they might have been sort of ahead of the game in running the powder snow Alolan Sandslash in the Barcelona regional instead of running the Shadow Claw variant. Which Shadow Claw, one of the best fast moves in the game. You've got really nice
Mm.
energy generation while also having a really nice typing, being able to hit, the Psyche types and also the Ghost types like Frostlass that are running around, while also, having that decent energy generation. But there has been a little bit of a shift into the Powder Snow. And King was, I think it was King, was quick to mention in the Twitter replies that it may have been pioneered by someone just slightly earlier than the Barcelona regional. Do you remember who that might have been, Debbie?
Was it recently in Worlds?
Might have been something like that. I don't know. Do we have to go back and like recheck your vlog that's just been uploaded on youtube.com/Debbie Pebble, or can you just do you happen to remember?
Look, to be honest, I don't remember. That is, but after seeing King's post on Twitter, it was our very own Rick Flareon that actually brought it to the world stage with Powder Snow, Shadow, Alolan Sandslash. So really, if we're gonna like pin it to someone that pioneered it, it would have been Rick.
Yeah, it's in Australian nature to just make sure that people know that we had things first. Lamingtons,
Always.
ours. Sorry, any New Zealanders are not allowed to comment anything down below about anything to do with that. It was definitely ours, and that I'll hear nothing
Mm-hmm.
outside of that. Those talking
Mm-hmm.
points.
New
But
Zealand doesn't exist. Mm-hmm.
that's also completely true. So keep that in mind. Uh, Anyone in the YouTube comment section. I don't think any of the other platforms have comment sections, right? Like Spotify or Apple or the other things that we are
I'm
on.
just
There's no
I'm
comments,
just
right?
waiting for like, people to DM us on Twitter or something like that. Just with it's like
Uh,
first we talked about the Germans and now we're talking about the New Zealanders. We're just oh, it's gonna be some filtering later.
okay. Look, you can't blame us because um, smoke bomb.
I'll insert a smoke bomb sound, maybe there.
Oh no, I did one. It's all good. No need
uh
to.
oh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay,
yeah.
cool,
No,
cool.
I
Just
sorted it.
clarifying.
I don't
Yep.
think it translates as well to the podcast forum. Uh,
Uh
you know,
Maybe we should start recording video.
yeah, it's possible. you would see a lot of me sort of dashing my eyes all around the screen constantly. But if that gets the smoke screen effect across a little bit better, let us know. Certainly not in the Apple Podcast comments. But the only place to, that it is only the YouTube comments. That's all we look at. Nothing else. I don't think we've ever got a Twitter DM either. But I don't even know if they're open. To be honest, test it, find out, see if we look at it. Only one way to learn.
We're just gonna ghost replies now.
Unless you say something cool about Australia, then we might reply and be like, "Yep, correct, thank you."
You might even screenshot it and share it.
Are we trying to hand out clout on our like 80 follower Twitter account? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm on board. All right. So if you're interested in that,
oh gosh. But talking about Barcelona, hey, EU now on the Play Pokemon Twitch stream, so that's exciting.
That is exciting. It actually looked really good. Like the staging and everything looked like it was such a step up. It's like, honestly, it's even better than the North American stuff. Like it just looks really good.
What a call.
Like it's a little less like plain colors, and it's a little more, it's got some texture in it. I really liked it, and you've got that stadium vibe as well. Like it's a little bit cool, and I'm very much hoping that is slowly becoming more of the norm. I guess I'm really just waiting for Oceania to maybe get some similar treatment, but we'll see. I've sent the offers out. I'm willing and able to make things make a stream happen. Please just let me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want there to be a stream, please.
I know. It's a little bit like jealousy is probably not the right word. Maybe envious.
Oh,
maybe
it's so the right word. It's jealousy.
Okay.
It's just.
Yeah. Okay, let's run with that because it was really nice to see everyone put their announcements up and be like, I'm the EU caster, and these amazing people casting, and then this amazing setup, and everything's so fresh and new, and the casters were amazing. The whole stream was amazing to watch, and on the back foot being like, our international got cancelled, one of our regionals got taken away, our regionals never get streamed. I'm just I'm so sad. And a little bit green. Yeah.
It's just like, if Enhoff is out here being able to be successful on stream with these Tapu Finis and able to make Twitter memes just with screenshots of her from the last two tournaments.
Oh, I know. They're so good as well.
Yeah, obviously follow Enhoff on Twitter. That's just a necessary plug, mandatory plug. Quite
it should be already. Gosh.
Yeah, obviously
it's mandatory. If you listen to this podcast, it's mandatory that you must follow Enhoff.
Oh, but before us, like go straight there. All our Twitter does is apparently try and hand out like shares of people sending us messages that hasn't happened yet. Maybe. I don't even know if Debbie's serious. Is she promising? Is she not promising? Are we going to get caught out for wires later?
Closed.
Yeah. Well, I guess mine are open. So, hey guys, what's going on? How's your week? Oh yeah. Mine's okay. What do you got planned for the weekend?
Oh gosh, I was wondering
send me a message.
I was wondering at what point the podcast would be down to small talk, and it's this episode.
So how about that weather? Hey, yeah, crazy stuff. Hey, ooh, wow. Ooh.
All right. Well, talking about messages, like Steve, have you been seeing the whispers? The whispers.
I was wondering where this segue was going.
Hearing things in the wind.
I've heard some rumors. There's
Rumours.
rumors. There's
Mm.
there's
What rumours
potential
have you heard?
that maybe, and this is so unconfirmed, it isn't funny. It is so frustratingly unconfirmed that
Mm.
maybe the CP limits, the sort of bar that you have to get, how many championship points you need to achieve to qualify for the World Championships, may be being lowered in every region. Maybe. And so the reason for this thinking is that the different language websites on the Play Pokemon site. So if you go to Play Pokemon in German, if you go on there in Portuguese, I think in Spanish, like if you go on these other language versions of the website, it actually lists numbers that are lower than it currently shows on the English speaking website. So, for example, on the English website, it says that for Australian trainers, they would need to get 300 championship points to qualify for the World Championships. On these other language sites, it says you only need 200, which is quite a significant drop. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
big difference. 100 CP is like I think that's top 8 in a regional is like 100, or is that 130?
Mm-hmm.
It's like wait, 170. Wait, hang on. I'm
I think
actually,
if you're number eight, it's 100. Everything
yeah,
above gets
yeah.
about like 10 CP more each time you step up.
Yeah, so you're cutting off an entire top 8 in a regional, which for people that don't have a lot of regionals, aka some Australians, also the Latin American trainers, that could be a big deal.
Mm.
Like that's huge. um, and
Mm-hmm.
I think there were also 50 CP, or I think it dropped by 100 the requirement in the US. I think it was 50 in Latin America, and then it was 100 in Europe as well. So like these were like big drops across the board. And as we're recording this, it's currently Tuesday night. Maybe there's been updates since then. They just have not responded to anyone as far as, is this legit? Is this like which number is correct? So we
Mm-hmm.
currently don't know how many championship points that we're going to need to qualify. I
Mm.
I'm hoping that it might get that reduction, maybe, but we'll see. I guess it,
Yeah. Look, at the current, what it is right now and what is on the English website of 300 is really difficult for Oceania, as we've talked about in the previous podcast. But the speculation and the possibility of 200, that opens up a lot of doors. And it means that, like you said, like for people that are limited with regionals, that like our Australia only has 3 regionals, and the fact that we could reduce it to 200, we definitely could get a lot more in there, as well. So yeah, I'm kind of like fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything that it could be 200, but I'm also kind of like, oh, they could do a switcheroo. They could be like, "Oh, sorry, yep." So it was me. It was lost in translation. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, and it's possible. So I guess it's a case of don't get hopes too high at this point and just wait and see what it might be. Make your plans as if you need to get the higher number, because then even if you fall short a little bit and it turns out that the lower number is correct, then you might be okay. But yeah, it's really a bit of a wait and see. But that's not even the only championship point, I guess, open question at the moment. In that there's actually another aspect of it in which, do players that register but don't submit a team count as competing for the sort of player cutoffs for championship points? So, for example, Barcelona had 128, and I'm actually reading this off of a tweet from Mini Benoit. Uh, they say Barcelona had 128 players registered on RK9, but only 104 had registered a team. So we're not sure to reach the 128 player kicker, which is the requirement to get championship points for everyone in the top 64 instead of the top 32 only. So everyone that is in that sort of region between 33rd and 64th is currently unclear whether they actually got 50 championship points or not. And apparently, when another trainer, Pablondinas, asked the staff in Barcelona, they said that no decision had actually been made yet. So
Mm.
I guess we don't know. I thought it would have been a solved thing from the other games. Like I assumed this would have come up in like VGC or TCG in years past, but and this could be pure just non-education on our part as like dumb fresh new Go players, but
Mm.
it's unclear as to what the deal actually is. So I
I wonder. I wonder if the other games, and this is because I don't know any better. This is my question: is that I wonder if the other games have such a high level of forfeiters.
Hmm,
Um, because I feel like with these events, um, you've got TCG, you got VGC, and those tickets sell out so quickly.
yeah,
So what ends up happening is that, let's say, speculatively, like I'm a TCG player, I didn't get in, but I want to play some side tournaments. And I can't get spectator tickets for whatever reason. Oh, what else can I get in? Oh, there's a spot in Go. And that they take up, they register for that, but they don't have any intention to play there. They just want to, just be there and enter into the building so they can enter inside tournaments. So I think that may also be a reason why there was such a high number of people that did not participate, even though they, have bought a ticket to play but no, didn't register a team. So I don't know how they're going to counteract that um, in the future as well. So yeah, I know that was an issue at OCIC because the numbers at OCIC were quite high in the beginning, but it was just a good chunk of them were actually just didn't get spectator tickets, so they just bought a Go ticket instead.
yeah. It definitely was like a major issue in like OCIC, for example. But for the Barcelona thing in particular, it's a little bit of a different case because it was a special event. So
Hmm.
registration is actually free, is my understanding. It's not pay to play. It's literally just sign up online for free. So you're sort of, I guess, incentivized as a European player if you might go, if you just are considering going to sort of just register anyway and not think about whether it's actually viable for you to attend. So I think a lot of tickets just sort of like get snapped up because it is like it actually does sell out really quick, those special events. Like I remember I can't remember which one it was last year, but I'm pretty sure the cap was above 128 and it just rocketed up. And then the actual
Hmm.
number of attendees was like significantly lower than that registration number. And maybe part of it is people who are literally going there with the intention of being spectators and like it's free, so why wouldn't you just steal a Go ticket? Outside of the moral question of it all,
Hmm.
I don't really know, but I think that special events are sort of, I guess, a special kettle of fish, as far as the registration problemo. Either
Hmm.
way, it sort of just leaves the question of, do these people get championship points or not? And that is
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
question that we'll just have to wait and find out, and hope that these play Pokemon support tickets are responded to in a somewhat timely manner.
Yeah, it's a lot in the air at the moment. So even though we're talking about it now, like we said, like take it with a grain of salt. Going well, we'll just see what the turnout is, and we'll update you once we get it, whenever that is.
Yeah, pretty much. So just in the meantime, do as well as you can, just in case. Uh,
Hmm.
Good luck.
Did we want to talk about anything else?
I think that's all the big bits. We've got more regionals coming up. We've got one in Latin America this weekend. And then I think we actually might not have another one until the first weekend of October. So, I mean, I say that as if it's like some significant break. It's literally like a single weekend. So it's not that much of a break.
Whoa,
Um,
what a breather we have.
I bet every other region is jealous of the breathers that Oceania gets between their regional tournaments. But you know, it's fine.
Oh,
It's fine.
it's yeah. Copium as much as you want about it.
hmm I don't even mind
Mm.
actually. I think it's totally cool that we can wait 3 months, 4 months between the
I do
first
like it
two.
because it'll be 3 different metas by that point. So we've got this meta for Brisbane, then we have what will be for Melbourne, and then Perth will be entirely different as well because it's all different 3 months gaps.
It's true. It's true. So,
I just
we
hope
get one
nothing's
taste.
too close. Yeah. So nothing's too close together to the seasonal change as well, which is good. Unlike last time with like Perth and the season changing over like 2 or 3 days beforehand.
Yeah, and same with Brisbane, getting the wing attack buff right beforehand.
Oh yes. Gosh, has it already been a year? Gosh.
How time flies.
Okay. Yep. Okay. That's it. Yep. That's enough.
Thanks for listening.
And if you're playing GBL at the moment and interested in Psychic Cup, there is Meta Simplified on youtube.com/PvPC.
Ryan Swag. Oh, wait.
Did he make one? I don't know.
No, I don't think he did this season.
Oh, there
But
we go.
he's doing well farming up his championship points.
He's a busy man. All right. Thank you for listening. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. Follow our socials at G'day Battlers on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, YouTube. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.